Hey legends, welcome to the Thursday Sesh on Celtic Down Under. I'm your host Jared, and tonight I am joined by Willie and Ian. How you going, Willie?
I'm going all right. Yep, pretty good. Nice to see Ian. Meet him for a change, rather than listening at the other end of the pods.
Yep. How you going, Ian?
I'm good. Yeah. Likewise, mate. Nice to meet you, and nice to be back, Jared. In a few
Yeah,
weeks.
it's good to have you both on. So, yeah, well, I think what we'll do before we crack into everything else is, Ian, you're rocking a Tottenham shirt. I wonder why that is. Good on you, Ian. You absolute top fella, winning a trophy again in your second season. Love it. Happy days. So, yeah, just wanted to say well done, Big Ange. Way to get your mic drop moment to all those idiots down in the media. Tottenham's fan support. There's a couple of good eggs that I know, but the rest of them seem like a bunch of absolute idiots. So, yeah, cop that, you fools. Enjoy the win, but yeah, you're idiots. That's my take anyway. Willie,
No,
you
good.
got anything to say?
Just nice to see Ange surpassing Mikel Arteta as one of the top coaches in London now. So that was another bonus.
And Ian, you got anything?
No, well done to the big man. I was gutted that he left. I was a little bit tarnished when I found out that he'd been sort of organising sort of transfer dealings for Tottenham when he was still with us. It maybe tarnished it a little bit, but no, it was good to see him shut the vast majority of London media up. And I was listening to Talk Sport for my sins live on this morning when I was sort of clearing the kitchen up, and the amount of people that have done entire 180s on the guy, like, oh, I've loved him forever and all this kind of stuff. The same people that were calling him a clown. Actually, a lot of people were calling him a clown, and all journalists sort of came out flat out and said it yesterday. But he did. He changed his style of play. He's had a lot of injuries and things, but Tottenham's one of those clubs where I just think it's like a black hole. Or you can go there with the best reputation in the world, but it just covers you in its mediocrity. It's like the mediocrity blanket, and it could make Pep Guardiola could have gone there and he would have looked bang average. So it's a tough gig. The expectation does not match the actual club. I don't think. We've all heard so many so-called sleeping giants in football, and I think suppose Tottenham goes down as one of those. But they've got much delusion of grandeur. I think the Tottenham fans. But so I thought I'd wear this top. It was I actually for a year back in the 80s. My brother's best mate, his older brother, he kind of got me into playing football, and he was a Spurs fan. So I've always been a Celtic fan. Celtic's my team, but I've always had a soft spot for Liverpool, and I grew up in England. So for one season in '87, because this guy I played football with, I supported Spurs, and it kind of coincided when they had Hoddle and Waddle and Clive Allen, and Chris Waddle and Glenn Hoddle got in the charts and on top of the pops with Diamond Lights. So what a time to be alive! And this was the shirt that they had in that season. So a little homage, I suppose. As far as it goes. My loving for Tottenham, it's all because of Ange and nothing else.
Yep, 100%. So, from my point of view, just to my two Tottenham supporting friends, Kelly and Andy, enjoy yourselves. But people like Jamie O'Hara doing the 180 was an absolute, just what a bellend. He's just way to sum him up. Like, you watch that 2 minute long video and a minute 15 in, he's completely puffed, shirts off, jiggling everywhere. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, I know, I know I've got like the old man boobs going on, or as I call them, chesticles. I wouldn't rip me shirt off in public. Like, come on now. That's just crazy. And then you get some idiots in the comments going, like doing the love in and that sort of stuff. But then you get others saying, "Oh, I hope Laura Woods does that next year when Arsenal win the Champions League." And I'm just like, dude, read the room. You can't say that these days. So
Yeah.
it's just absolute menaces on there. It's just at the end of the day, don't really care much for Spurs, but happy for Ange, and that's what Smell the Gloves saying here as well. Delighted for Ange, but can't really stand it. I just think the standard though of the Europa League final. While we're on it, we'll talk about it. That was rubbish football. I know you refer to the Premier League, Ian, as LinkedIn League, and it's absolute shambles. Like that's like 16th and 17th, the two next teams that avoided relegation in the EPL, and that's supposed to be the best league in the world. And you see that final, and I think you would have got a better spectacle if you had, say, Hibs versus I don't know, Hibs versus Aberdeen. and that's saying something. It was not great football to watch.
It was shocking. It was shocking. And the reason I call it the LinkedIn League is because it's like they themselves call it the best league in the world. You know how you go on LinkedIn, it's a business tool, and you got like a bang average Joe, and he tells them that he's the chief exec of NASA, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, but you look at like you've got League One or Liga One in France, you've got Serie A, and then League One in England, in English football, is actually the third division. So they've given themselves the Premier League moniker, and then the second tier is the Championship. So it's all this building it all up. And if you tell everyone enough times that you're the best, then people start to repeat it. And that's the only way I think that the EPL can be classed as the best league in the world, because they've said it so often. I think we can all acknowledge that it ain't the best league in the world. Certainly not.
Willie, what I'll do for you is now we're past the 5-minute mark and we're safe, right? I just want to get your thoughts on that final because, yeah, to me, there's a term we got a few different terms over here, but the easiest way to sum it up is that league they blow the wind up their own ass is the Aussie saying, but the other one is they're a bunch of pumpers is what they call them in my in-laws' country in the Balkans, or in Serbia. People who just walk around talking shit, saying they're the greatest, pumping themselves up, and that's what the EPL teams are. And I smell the gloves saying here, it showed last night the level of the Europa League compared to the Champions League. You're listening, Huns, there's levels to this basically. So what was your thoughts on it, Willie?
I never actually watched the game. I was too busy working. I was tuning into highlights. I wanted to see. I did want. I was just tuning in the score just to see who would win because I didn't want Ange to win. I just don't like the way they've been treating him in the English media of late. Like some guy decided to call him a clown, and I think I was seeing one of the highlights on the internet. It was him just saying, "Oh, I'm a clown. This is why I'm here," and he had a bite back, and everyone they just jump on it. Oh, he's biting back. He's feeling the pressure. He's stressed out. He's just sticking up for himself. You know what I mean? And he's just doing it in a way people down under do. You know what I mean? You have a go at someone, and they'll fight their corner. And that's what they do. But as for the game itself, I can't really comment because I didn't watch it. But from all accounts, it was a pretty shit game. Like,
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, what I'm just looking at something else, just having a quick skim through the other comments here. But yeah, it's this sort of thing here. Like Heavy Vibes is saying EPL, it's pig wearing lipstick. And McLaughlin's saying it's the fans in England I can't stand. They call every league a farmers league, even the Spanish one.
Yeah.
And he goes, especially when the person sprouting it supports Stockport. And then let's just smell the glove saying, let's look at Inter versus Barca semis compared to that mess last night. Honestly, last weekend's Melbourne victory versus Auckland FC game in the A-League would have given that a run for its money in terms of quality of the football being played.
Yeah.
Terrible football. Anyway, let's get to the Celtic talk, I suppose. So what we'll do is, just before we rattle into that, I just want to let you all know what the plan is for the Celtic Down Under podcast over the off-season. So basically, we're going to have tonight's the last Thursday sesh, like in this time slot, as we go into our off-season plans. On Monday, we'll have the pot noodle. We'll be reviewing the cup final. Then after that, we're going to have a season review pod at some point in the week after that. And then what we'll do is we'll do what we did last off-season, which is we're going to have a weekly podcast going out, the off-season chinwag, as I call it, where random members from all the different Celtic Down Under pod shows jump on, have a chat, whoever's available, about what's happened in the last week. On top of that, we will have spot emergency podcasts, as we'll call them, where, say, if we sign a player or we sell a player or someone signs a new contract or something massive in Scottish football happens and we need to jump on and talk about it. If it's a 5, 10, 15-minute max video and podcast, then we'll have those come out when and if something happens. So that's the plan for the off-season. So make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube and on the audio version. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube, so whenever we go live, you get notified, because it's going to be a little bit hit and miss over the next month or so. Get a bit of a break and one pod a week instead of 3. So yeah, that's where we're going to be. But to the Celtic talk, Ian, Brendan Rodgers will be having a meeting with Dermot Desmond about his future at the club before the start of next season. What are you hoping they're discussing? Because for me, I'm looking at it going, hopefully Brendan gets an extended contract and they also figure out, okay, this is how much money you're going to have to spend. Yes, we're going to back you properly in for the Champions League next year and so on. That's what I'm wanting. Because if we get that backing for the Champions League and we fall into the Europa, as we saw last night, that's a winnable league for a club like us. So that's what I'm hoping. Brendan gets a contract and we can actually double down and increase the spend, bring in the better quality players that we need, like 3 or 4 of them, and go to a next level. But what's your thoughts on what are you hoping that they're discussing?
I mirror what you're saying, really. I hope that Brendan is thinking about or wants to extend his contract. I don't think the Celtic board would be wanting to sort of change his mind on that. I think they'd be quite happy to keep him. I don't know what the relations are like with sort of Peter Lawwell. I think that was kind of, I suppose, the only sort of dodgy bit of the relationship. But Dermot Desmond wanted to bring Brendan back, and obviously he's the main man. So I would love, and I've said this in the past, I'd love Brendan Rodgers to sort of build a legacy, build a dynasty. I think every sort of 3 years anyway in any team, things have to be refreshed. So there's going to be a natural sort of change, I think, to keep things freshened up. And Brendan said that himself. In terms of the Champions League, obviously we've got to qualify for it this year. Hopefully, it's only the one qualifier. But I can never understand why the board don't invest the money before the qualifier to ensure that you actually get into it, because we've lost out a few times with that kind of, you wait to see if you're going to get into the Champions League before you spend the money. It's like, well, it's crazy, really. But it's the kind of risk averse nature of the board that we've come to expect. And I put a thing on the group chat earlier on, Jared, if you remember today. And it's like I put this out to everyone who's listening in, and watching. Would you take Celtic losing the Champions League qualifier and going on in the Europa League to potentially win it? Would you take that for one season, or would you rather win the qualifier and go into the Champions League and just see how far we can go like we do this year? I know you make more money in the Champions League, but I suppose it's money over glory. I personally wouldn't mind us going into the Europa as long as we went all the way and won it, a la Tottenham. So that's kind of my thoughts. But in terms of answer the question, yeah, I hope the discussion point is that Brendan's going to extend his stay for another 3, 4, 5 years. And they're going to back him, and he really builds a dynasty and a real, like Jurgen Klopp was at Liverpool. Going into Liverpool and sort of these managers in the English league that sort of stay longer, and sort of build something sustainable. I hope that's what's going to happen with Rodgers and Celtic.
Willie, do you want to answer Ian's question? What would you prefer?
If we were guaranteed to win the Europa League, I would quite happily go and take a part in it. But I think you've got to be in amongst the big boys. For me, you've got to play to be at your best, and being in the Champions League is being at the best. So for me, being in the Champions League, what it's all about. But like Ian says, the contract situation with Rodgers is one I'd like to get sorted out, because I don't want to be going into coming January with it still sort of hanging in the balance. And he did a midnight flip once before, and you get to that point when January comes, you might start to worry you might do it again. But if you see, and if we can get the sustainability and going forward, he has the nucleus of a squad there that he could go on. If you keep the core of the team, you've got Sinisalo ready to take over from Schmeichel. You've got CCV there, who's just a rock. He's got a couple of years left in him at the top level. You've got McGregor. You've got players like Bernardo who could stay on a couple more years. There is a core there of players that you can build another team around, and you just augment it season on, season out. You get rid of the players who are starting to age a bit, who might be peaking in value, and just say, right, we can afford to sell you. Just keep augmenting that squad with little bits here and there, rather than going out and making wholesale changes the whole time. So for me, yeah, getting his situation sorted out should be priority over the summer.
So for me, looking at it, there's like 3 different talking points here. So I'm not looking at the Brendan contract situation. We'll come back to that in a moment. But if we're looking at the whole Europa League thing, right? If we're guaranteed to win it, which you never are, okay, that would be good, because it would be great for the coefficient points to pad them back up over a period because it's been pretty low. So that'll be a good thing to help us then get automatic qualification year on year for the Champions League after that. So that's a positive on there. Positive is we get another bit of silverware in Europe. And the other thing I can see is if we were to go to the Europa League, then if we miss the qualifier and we fall down this year, this thing for me is it's not really a good thing because it's the first year we don't have that automatic spot and we're not there. Now, if we do go to the Europa League, and I've just seen someone in the comments here, John Clements has just said where I was going here, if we were to play the Europa League and go all the way through and win that, what's to say we're not going to build on what we've already done the last few years where we're building up year on year into a Champions League club? We drop down 1 year, we win the Europa League, and then we come up and we've got that winning mentality in Europe. We've got the coefficient points to auto qualify and are better for us for rankings in the pots and the pools and everything for when they do the what's it called, the fixtures and stuff like that, the draw. But at the same time, what's to say we can't do a Porto? Go down, win one, come up, and now we are officially a solid European team. Not just a Champions League team, but we're a team that every time you take the field in Europe, we don't expect to get absolutely pantsed. Now, I'm just looking at it objectively. Personally, I want to be in the big show every time. We're a Champions League club. I want us to go down the Club Brugge version, 7 straight years in the Champions League and build their squad. As you boys were saying, every 3-year period, you've got to turn your team over a bit. So if you're doing that, every year you sell 1 or 2, you bring in a few, and then you do the same again, and you do the same, and you keep your levels, you keep your standards. It's either every 3 years the coach goes or every 3 years players tend to move on. That's the way it works. Why not keep Brendan long term? And that's when bringing it back to that contract. Keep Brendan for 4 or 5 years if he's willing to, and then turn the team over, develop players, sell them, next man up, and off we go. And we come in and we just build on year as being a Champions League team. Because you put those two things together where we're constantly in the Champions League, Brendan's got a long-term contract, players will want to sign for that. We have the best British manager in the world at the moment. He's better than anything there is in the APL. So I just think you put it all together and it makes most sense to try and be in the Champions League.
Yeah, fair enough.
I went on a bit of a rant there. I was tying it up. It was all making sense in here. And then, so I'll bring up some comments here. So talking about the contracts and stuff like that. So Heavy Vibes are saying move heaven and earth to keep Rogers. RL77, notable that Brendan Rodgers never says he's talking to Michael, the Invisible Man Nicholson. Dermot McCulloch is saying, we already have $6 million in the kitty from Frimpong. No reason why Brendan can't have a new contract and a massive transfer budget. Maestro95 is saying it's all about ambition from the board from the board's thinking to Brendan. That's why the Gloves having a crack at Nicholson here. Nicholson's just Lawwell's T-boy. Brendan better off going straight to Desmond. And then talking about the Champions League stuff, RL77. Champions League for me. Dermot saying win qualifier of Champions League, better games and more money to invest. The cycle can then continue. And the thing is, I want us to be in the Champions League year on year because it stops the Huns being there as well, which just makes that gap between the two clubs get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we eventually are going to drop into a Europa League 1 year and go and win it, that'll be the year they go bust. Had to say that for fun.
Not to get this big investment that seems more and more likely, stroke unlikely.
Raskin's a £50 million player now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but so Morelos was a £30 million player. And Ryan Kent. And what were they saying about Cherney the other day? Oh, he's got to be a £30 million player. Yeah, but he's not your player, he's Wolfsburg's. They constantly forget that, idiots.
Yeah, they said the same thing about Morelos, and they said the same thing about Ryan Kent. Little hand there. So it's They did well to flog Bassey. I didn't think Bassey was a bad player, but to get that amount of money for him was, must have had a good agent.
The two they did well on was Bassey, and then they followed that up with Patterson. They were the two they did well on, and since then it's just been, they get the lint from the bottom of someone's pocket and a few marbles here and there. So, talking about the contract, John Clement's saying, never underestimate the power of the wife. Mrs. Rogers loves living in Glasgow. Unless Brendan has interest coming from the continent, I think he will be with us for another 3 years. It's a fair point. And then we'll just go through a few more here. So, to me, being in the Champions League compared to the Thursday Cup is glory. We're turning into a Champions League club the more we play at a higher level. John Clements is saying we got beat by Porto, who then won the Champions League. There's been some poor teams in Europa recently. So, yeah, it's going to be just having a scroll through here. See what else we got here. Kaiser's saying that the board and Brendan Rodgers play chicken with each other on buying players and signing a new deal. Yeah, and there you go. Kaiser's also giving us another one. Hadji was a £100 million player released on a free. There you go. There we go. Smell the gloves saying Destas is 31 in December and they still think he'll be selling him for 20 million. 20 million Monopoly dollars. That's about all they'll get. So, talking about transfers, that's a perfect little segue for us, so we'll go there. There's been 2 former Celtic players linked to us in the media recently, so I just want to bounce them off you boys. To me, one is definitely a no, the other is, that sounds interesting, let's have a look, right? So the one that to me is a no is Georgios Giakoumakis has said in an interview he would love to play for Celtic again. Is this one we should be putting on the list of possible striker signings, Willie, since we definitely need one over the off-season?
Probably not. I think I get the impression he was a bit difficult to deal with as a person, and that's why Alan's just punted him at the door. And I was reading, I had a quick look. I never knew anything about this rumour until you mentioned it. It would be on the run sheet tonight, and I was digging it, and he's saying that the reason he kicked that the fastest is because they only offered him an extra £1,000 a week. Like, I mean, somebody's going to offer you £1,000 a week pay rise. People like us would snap their hands off it, and he spat the dummy out over it. Like, yeah, he was a good player. He was big, he was strong, he was powerful. But he's the sort of player that would suit Brendan Rodgers too, actually. Like, I think he would do very well under Rodgers, but he's the wrong side of 30 now, and the kind of money you would have to pay to get him back, and the kind of money he would probably want coming back, I don't think it would make much sense to me. Like,
what do you think, Ian?
I liked him, and I don't know if it was particularly difficult. I don't know if you've heard that. I know I never heard that, but I thought it was more the fact that he was frustrated he wasn't playing as much. Obviously, he had Kyogo in front of him, so that was, and we only play with one striker, so that was never going to kind of work out particularly well for him. I thought he was good. He was always a handful when he played. I said on Axum last night. Was it last night or the night before? It was the night before. From what I've seen with Johnny Kenny, I thought his goal against Aberdeen was a class goal. I thought it was a real striker's goal, very accomplished. A season playing with Giakoumakis, because I think he would learn probably more from Giakoumakis of being a bit older and he's been around the block a bit more than from Ida. It wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, for 12 months. But again, it would depend on the price and what his wages and stuff were. So I would be averse to having him back for a season, at least.
If it's on a permanent deal, at his age, at being 30, and that he's had more clubs than I've had cooked dinners in the last month, right? So realistically, the guy seems to agitate for a move every 18 months or so. So if we were to bring him back for that 12 months, as you're saying, Ian, great. But if we're bringing him in long term, what does that do for our striker profile? Because, his style probably would suit Brendan, right? But I think we need someone. We've got Maeda, who's the super quick one. We've got Johnny Kenny, who's like the halfway between Maeda and Ida. And then we've got Ida as the big centre forward. So we've got those three there. So for me, I don't know if bringing in Giakoumakis for a season or 2 seasons is going to be worthwhile when we already have Ida doing the similar sort of stuff. And if we bring someone in over the top of Eder again for the third straight season, where you got Eder coming in to cover for Kyogo, and then you've suddenly got Maida coming over the top of him. If then you were to have Maida and then bring Giakoumakis over the top of him, I just don't see what that does for his development at the end of the day. One's our player, one is getting older, and there'll be no resale value and everything as well. So I'm looking at it going, I'd rather focus on Eder and Johnny Kenny and bring someone else in and have Maida as an option there than bring Giakoumakis in.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if he didn't come back. Obviously, there's probably better out there. So yeah, and were you going to mention the other one as well?
We'll go to there. Just on the striker thing, apparently the deal that Chris Fistgarden had agreed to has fallen through. So just wait for those rumours to kick up again. Just
only
doing
taken
that
3
for you,
years.
Billy.
Is this price not going up to about 12 now or 15?
Yeah, around about the 11 or 12 mark. Yeah, good fun. Could have got him for 6.
More chance of my kids tidying their bedroom than signing for Celtic.
I just had to bring that one up because it's a yearly thing. But yeah, just looking at some of the comments here quickly, we'll have a look. So Smell the Glove saying thought GG hated the usual Scottish weather. Then we've got Eder will be fine. He can do everything GG does and has a lot of potential to build on. Kaiser saying GG would use us as a platform back into European football. So yeah, it's Maestro saying GG has better hold-up play, but that can be coached in at Eder. And Smell the Glove. Oh, great. Crisp Garden Rumours are back. Hey, I'm only pre-warning you guys because, I've read that about 20 minutes before the pod and I'm like, oh, God, here we go. The other former player that's been linked with Celtic is Moritz Jens, the big centre-back. So he's currently on loan with Mainz in Germany, who have an option to buy him as part of the loan deal. However, if that doesn't happen, according to Fabrizio Romano, Jens has been told by Wolfsburg to find a new club. So is this someone you think Celtic should be looking at? Since we potentially need to sign another centre-back. And also, do you think his style of play would suit Brendan's? I'll go to you first, Ian.
I think definitely. I actually never said it out loud, but I was thinking about him a few months ago. We were having the problems at left centre back. It's a shame that he didn't hang around. When Ange was here, when Ange left and Brendan came in, because I think he is Brendan's type of player. He's a ball playing centre half. He was great because it was like I think a lot of the problems we've been having is because our two centre halves are getting so many touches of the ball. Teams are letting us have the ball, so they're sort of labouring on the ball, and it's taking too long to sort of build attacks. Whereas Jens was passing through to midfield straight away. He was really quick at doing that and getting out to the wingers really quickly as well, and carrying the ball out. He looked really cultured, and he sounds like a good guy as well. So I don't know why it quite didn't work out with Ange. Whether it was just again game time that he wanted, but Ange was pretty quick to get rid of him. So I think I would love to have him back. I think he would be I wouldn't say perfect, but he would be right up there as a the type of player that Brendan Rodgers likes.
Willie, I'll let you jump in here. I'm just quickly Googling something else.
I would definitely have Morris Jens back. I think when he came in, if I mind right, it was when CCV was injured. He got most of his game time, and he sort of flirted between playing right centre back or playing sort of left centre back. He was never in a fixed position. But I think he's right-footed. If I was reading right on what I've seen on FotMob and that transfer market, he's actually right-footed. But I seem to remember him playing more left centre back for us. Which meant, I think, if I'm right, then when CCV was injured, then if he was left centre back, that means Starfelt was right centre back. But I can see why, I can probably see Ange's decision where he was never going to split CCV and Starfelt up. They were a fantastic pairing. They very, very conceded goals of the two of them in the team. But like you say, Ian, he was a great player and he's quick at releasing the ball through the middle. And that's something we do dilly-dally a lot and pass the ball around the back. And when you do that passing the ball around the back, what you're trying to do is draw their players out and create space for yourself. But when we draw their players in, they seem to close us down before we try and exploit the space that we've created. And Morris Jensen was, like you say, a player that was quick at delivering that ball from out to wide or into the middle of the pitch. And that's what you want from your centre backs when you're trying to play that style of football. So for me, it's a no-brainer. He's had a bit of a hit and miss season with injuries. I think he's currently out with a nose injury. But he's been in and out of the team. He's played 19 times this season. But like I say, it's mostly through injury why he's not getting in there. So I would definitely one I would look at because he's better than anything we have to partner CCV at the moment, so definitely.
I look at it and go, he would definitely suit Brendan's style of football. We definitely do need a centre back, but my question is, okay, with the ball on the ground and everything, he's great, and he was good at getting headers at corners, right? But the physicality in Scotland, he got caught out with that in his first stint, and there's a comment here that sums it up very close to what I was thinking from Smell the Glove, which is Jens and Trusty a bit too similar, not physical enough for Scotland. That's what my concern is. If we spent $6 million on Trusty and then you bring in Jens, who's a very similar sort of physicality player, are we going to bring him in and then suddenly be stuck with with Scales and CCV again, and then have two £6 million players or something sitting on our bench at centre back? We've already got a £6 million in Trusty and a $4 million or £4.5 million player sitting there in Naroski. So what are we doing? And then we've still got a £4.5 million player or a £5 million player as well to come back in Lagerbelka, who we've got to sell. And then we've still got Stephen Welsh to come back. So we've got a whole lot of clearing out to do to make sense of that position as well. So Jens has said numerous times that he wants to come back to Celtic. He said it last season. He said it the season before. He said his wife and family miss living in Glasgow. So he wants to be at Celtic, which is great. That's what you want. But I'm just concerned about the physicality. That's it.
Which is strange to say as well about the Trusty and Jens. They're both units in terms of the size. You think they'd have a bit more of a presence, and a bit more. But again, that can be practiced, that can be learned and built into them. I thought when Trusty first joined, I can't remember who we were playing, and he looked like someone. It was a corner, and the opposition player went to sort of shoulder into him, and he knocked him over. So he is a big, strong unit, but he's just not using it to his advantage. Is not enough, and he has been ragdolled a few times by sort of lesser strikers for smaller teams.
Just having a look at Trusty's Wikipedia, and it goes he plays centre back and left back for the US national team. So I didn't know he plays left back, but he's 6'3", right? And 26 years old. And then if I look at Moritz Jens, which I'm just going to, I think he's a similar age as well. There we go. What do we got here? 26 years old. Centre back. Yeah, he's 6'3". Yep, so definitely there's an option there. But yeah, the thing for me is I just want the club to go to the Balkans and find a big hard bastard who'll just come in and put studs down someone's shin. So that's what I want more than anything. That's what I think we need. We need a bit of an enforcer.
I think Rocky is. I know he's obviously the same side as CCV, but I think Rocky he's that type of guy as well. He hasn't got much pace, but he's a proper tough nut, I think. And he's a defender. He's a proper defender. He wins stuff in the air, and he wins tackles, and he's good at distribution.
The big hard Polish man. Yep. Yeah, but then Smell the Glove saying, I was just saying, I want a big monster centre from the Balkans who runs through walls. The Balkans players can be technical as well. There you go. We need some sort of monster down there. But yeah, what were you going to say, Willie? Sorry.
I was going to say that we kind of had our fingers burned with Chris Julian, and we all live in that sort of that's still fresh in our memory. Lyndon Dykes ragdolling him and watching Chris Julian going from being a very confident player who could pass the ball around just to somebody who just had the fear every time he went up against a physical unit after that. So there is that sort of fear factor there when we see a big unit just kind of have a bad game against a physical striker. So yeah, there could be that with these two players, but I think one season in Scotland, it might not be enough for players like that to actually get a grip of the game. You know what I mean? They might go into the second season thinking, right, you know what, I've got that season out of the way. I know what to expect the next time round, and they could probably go out and maybe make a better fist of it in some of the more physical competitions they were going to face. But yeah, that's all I was going to say. Like,
Big Leg's got the best summary here. Georges Giacomakis, Jens, Kyogo, Edward. How lazy is the Scottish media? Yeah, I know. Pretty bad. But anyway. Any former Celtic player you would love for us to come back? Since we're at it, we'll just throw it in there. Is there anyone you boys would love to see come back to the club that's not being linked with us?
Frank McAvenny and Paul McStay.
Hey.
I was going to say, like, Pratt McAvenny.
Well, imagine a modern Maka. He was great.
Aye.
Or Brian McClare. Well,
Oh, good old Chocky. I'll give a serious answer then. If Chris Eye was to come back, I'll be happy.
really? Okay.
He'd fix the centre back situation for us on that left side. That's pretty much it. Or as Dermot saying, Matt O'Reilly in a heartbeat.
Oh, aye, definitely. Aye.
Yeah.
No chance though when he's been linked to bloody a bunch of other clubs over in like Italy and Germany and stuff like that. Guys are saying Larson and Sutton. Even today, I reckon you could get Larson out there and he'd bang goals in Scotland. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to think in terms of recent players that we've lost that could come back.
Yeah.
Get the tiara out, Jared.
It's down there somewhere. I can't get to it. Too much shit in the way.
Oh, is that your nickname?
Nah, I made a comment last season when we signed Tilio that by the end of the season he'd be a first team regular, and someone questioned me and I doubled down on it and said, well, if he does that, if he doesn't, then our end of season review pod, like I will wear a tiara. So sure enough, I wore a bright pink tiara on the end of season pod because I was wrong. So
I think you made some good points on the group chat the other day about Tilio. There was a bit of a perfect storm of sort of bad luck that happened to him. So he's not really had a proper chance at Celtic. So I think he deserves a chance.
people are writing him off, saying that he's no good, he's a dud, all this, and he's played 27 minutes of football in 3 appearances. That's it. How can a player who's moved from one side of the world to the other and he's injured, then has to rehab, miss the whole preseason, come in and play 27 minutes in 3 substitute appearances, get injured again, then when he recovers, come back home because of family issues, and then finish the rest of that season is injured again a 3rd time to then come out of it and have a good quality season this year in the A-League. He's in better form now. He's a more rounded player now than he was when we signed him. So I'd like for Brennan to get a look at him in the preseason, but whether that's to put him, go, okay, we're going to loan you out over here and put you in the shop window, or it's to bring him in because there's talk of Yang going on loan to Portsmouth and then he can take that spot, who knows? But yeah, to watch this space, I suppose, with him. Now, for a bit of a laugh, is Stephen Gerrard going back to manage Rangers, Ian? What are your thoughts on this if it happens?
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't care really. I think he's a bit of a myth. You know, and it's kind of it's a strange one really, because this obviously isn't the potential new owners that are going to appoint the new manager. So does that sort of point to the fact that the takeover is not imminent? Because surely if it was imminent, they'd be hanging fire and letting the new guys choose the manager. So you know, it's hardly us. You know, it was great for us going back to be able to get Brendan after we lost Ange, because we're all gutted about that. This is not the same calibre of manager as Brendan Rodgers. I think he's proven that where he's gone away to do jobs and failed, and he had all the money he could ever want for in Saudi, and still couldn't polish that particular turd.
Yeah, you can't make diamonds out of rabbit shit. So there you go. The easiest way to sum him up is if he's going in there without the brains of his operation in Bilinho, then it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So, yeah, interesting. I think it'll be funny, but apparently he's being appointed by the new director of football. It's coming up the road. But Willie,
Farewell.
what's your thoughts? Yeah, Thilwell.
I'd love for him to come back. I thought he was 2 or 3. He was a game or two away from getting sacked if COVID hadn't kicked in and a global pandemic hadn't taken a hold of the world and shut it down. He was about to get sacked. I mean, he was getting beaten by Hamilton at home. You all remember Neil Lennon sitting in the away dugout, sitting there mouthing the words Hamilton as the words filtering in. The Rangers are getting pumped by them. So I spoke to my mate back home, and he's a big Rangers fan, and he was like, a lot of the Rangers fan base would be quite happy for him to come back because he won a title. And I just kind of pointed out to him, I says, you won the COVID title, there was no fans in the stadium, and the fact that he was a couple of games away from the sack, he says, yeah, but this time round you'll have more money behind him, and he will get backing from the board and that, so he'll be able to bring his own players. And my response was that he got to bring his own players into Aston Villa, he got to bring his own players into Al-Ettifaq, and he was told to beat it from both of them. So for me, if Steven Gerrard is to be appointed, I'd be quietly confident that 5 in a row would be on the way. Like,
Let's just see their puppets in the mainstream media over there talking up that it's like the return of Walter Smith and all this sort of stuff going on with them. Like it's nothing special. At the end of the day, he's a dud manager, and he'll get found out, and it's hilarious. The only bad thing is if he does get appointed, we're gonna have to deal with that idiot on YouTube doing all those Stevie G videos again.
what I would like to know is, would that group of Rangers fans that had the burial for him, they put him in the cardboard cutout in the coffin and buried it, will they have to go and dig that coffin out, and will he be zombie Steven Gerrard? Like?
There it is. RL77 saying will be worth it to get all the Hun Steven Gerrard cardboard cutouts cut out funeral videos out again. And Smell the Glove saying, I wonder if the Dublin gangsters he hangs around with have given Slippy the okay to go back to Ibrox. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens with that lot. I think it's funny, but using that as a segue, I just want to talk about fan behaviour in Scottish football recently, and there's a reason we're doing this because of the cup final on the weekend. So recently there's been a few issues going on. There's a Celtic fan getting a life ban for showing 66 on his phone at Ibrox. There was Rangers fans throwing bottles, lighters and coins at our players in recent derbies. And then there was also the Aberdeen fan who threw a chair onto the pitch and hospitalised Jack McKenzie. So, Willie, why do you think we're seeing an increase in these things happening? Is it due to people just being idiots as usual, or has it always happened at this level and the media is finally covering it?
I don't think it's always happened at this level. I haven't seen it this bad since the 80s. And I think there's a lot of the young team now just want to go out there and prove themselves to sort of, I don't know who they're trying to prove themselves to. Certainly not me or anyone of my generation. Nobody's interested in this kind of behaviour, but for some reason they think it's acceptable. There seems to be an increased number of fans who just turn out to go on the pitch and stuff like that. They've had players being attacked in other leagues across the world. I don't know what it is. There just seems to be a worrying trend over it. And with Jack McKenzie, you look at his face, he's got stitches in his face. He'll probably not be playing this weekend because of the injuries as a result. What? Because they finished 4th in the league. It's disappointing, but there's no reason to be trashing the seats of an opposing team's ground and then throwing them at your own players. If it hit one of the opposing players, you could maybe say, well, do you know what, he's thrown at one of them. But to throw at one of your own players, that's really, really bad. But further to the point is, like, the Celtic fan is banned for life. This guy in Aberdeen, he's ended up in court. I've not seen any noise out of Ibrox about who's thrown this glass bottle on the pitch. And we had Vili Sinisalo. He came out and the media asked him, "What's it like having a couple of things thrown?" And he says, "It wasn't a couple of things; it was 30 or 40 things that were getting thrown at me the whole way through the second half." So the fact that this kind of thing is happening, and like, I don't know, the SFA seem to be burying their head in the sand over it all at the minute. And I just, do we need strict liability? Do we need to be able to say, look, do the governing body be able to say, look, right, do you know what, Aberdeen fans, that's disgusting. No more away tickets for 3 games for you. I'm not talking about points deduction. I'm talking about stand closures. You know what I mean? Next time we play Rangers, this is recurring now when we go to Ibrox that things are getting launched on the pitch. Do they turn around and say, right, that's it, Copeland Road, next Glasgow Derby, which is the first one next season, Copeland Road is closed? I don't know. It's a worrying trend that's happening at the minute, and it needs to be nipped in the bud. Like,
Firstly, they're Willie as if they would do anything to their club. Let's be honest. But the thing I look at it is it young kids trying to, do a bit of clout chasing. They've watched a bit too much Green Street Hooligans, or a Smell the Gloves saying, are they all just coked up, going to the games and losing their marbles? It's it's just a bit of a shitty situation, all things considered. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm hoping for a safe and controversially free Scottish Cup final on the weekend. But Ian, what's your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I think this Smell the Glove, you've probably got a point there. I mean, I remember back in sort of the 80s when there was a lot of hooliganism, and there was I read a few things about sort of equating it to sort of the drug choice of the era, which was cocaine, and it was, it makes people aggressive and stuff like that. And then when Acid House kicked in, and it was ecstasy and stuff like that, and it was all, the violence stopped. And you can see that correlation, sort of the timeline. Who wants to fight when they're off, when they're on pills, So, and so that's kind of, I think that's probably got a lot to do with it. There's the sort of the younger generation, and I think it's prevalent. It's everywhere. Don't know what's like in Australia, not so much here, but certainly back in the UK, it's really, really, really rife. I know it is in English football as well. So, but that can't be everything. I think it's just a sort of a societal problem as well. Alcohol, drinking for long periods and stuff like that, and going to the match in gangs. So yeah, it's interesting that the kind of after the Glasgow Derby, and the amount of missiles that went to hit Sinisalo or round about him, the quarter bottle of vodka, if that hits somebody, you're hospitalised definitely, or worse. So it's something's got to be done about it. They've just got to clamp right down on it, and if that means like closing sections of stadiums, but they've got to punish the clubs. I think, in order for the clubs to sort of clamp down, because it's not the police's job to go and make sure that clubs adhere to the rules. It's the club's jurisdiction.
The other thing as well, Ian, is there used to be a culture of, like, I know when we were growing up and stuff like that, it was a culture was like you self police your fellow supporters. Like if you're in an area and someone's ripping a flare and they throw it over and it lands over near some women in the crowd or an old couple or whatever, yeah, you don't want the flare ripping, but that person's copping a bit of a battering later on, right? So they're self police, they're copping a spray, they're getting in shit for it. You don't want to be like a grass pointing people out and stuff like that. But at the same time, there needs to be that self-police of like, that's not what our club stands for. And the thing is, if you get that fan culture and at the same time you've got the clubs actually enforcing things and trying to do things the right way, then you can address it. And the case in point is, as Smell the Glove saying here, the 31-year-old Aberdeen fan was found and is already in court. The cameras at Tannadice work, unlike what's going on at Ibrox. Now, with the Tannadice one, there was a pitch invasion from the Dundee United fans because they were happy that they won, and it was the away fans just grabbing a chair and throwing it on the pitch at the home fans, and happened to hit their own player. So it was a bit of a unlucky shot, but yeah, it's not good enough. There needs to be better policing from the fans, the club, because what you tolerate at a football stadium is what you accept. Whether that's in a football, whether that's in life, if someone speaks badly to you in public or in general, if you just shut up and cop their abuse and their narcissistic ways or whatever, you cop that, you're accepting it, and then that becomes what's allowed. So you've got to put a line through it and go, no, 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 none of this shit. And if you've got to eventually clatter someone, once you get them out of the stadium, going, oh, don't be doing that again, and they mouth off, and someone just puts one on their chin so they learn a lesson, then so be it. But the problem these days is a lot of people are like got too busy with their phones out videoing all the shit going on rather than actually doing something about it. Whether that's if there's a fight going on, everyone's filming it, no one's trying to stop it from actually escalating or happening. Or, if someone's drunk and struggling walking crooked down a sidewalk, what do? People film it. They just watch and they film rather than, hey mate, you okay? Do you need a hand with anything? So the human element of it's just dropping away. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. So we'll leave that topic there. I'll just go with this last comments from Pegleg. So if this throwing of bottles was happening in England, it would be all over the media and condemned. There would be consequences. And then Celtic players and staff hit and nothing. It's disgraceful. Yep. So anyway, we'll leave that there. But yeah, let's hope we get an incident-free game on the weekend against Aberdeen at Hampden. So, Willie, how are you feeling heading into the Scottish Cup final?
Oh, extremely confident. I'm not sure if Aberdeen fans will be turning up in their jobs for this one. They slipped the fourth on the final day of the season. Our second string ripped them apart the week before that. It's not going well for them. I think you can pinpoint it to us beating them 6-0 at Hampden in the semi-final of the League Cup. That their whole season has just fallen apart from that point on, and they've really struggled to rally. And for me, when we played Club Brugge in the Champions League, they kind of showed people how an effective way of playing against us is to man mark in midfield and just stay on them, mark them tightly. And other teams have sort of adopted that. And I think with that 6-0 win at Hampden in the League Cup semi-final, I think we kind of showed that this is how you play against Jimmy Tilleen's side, and the rest of Scottish football cottoned onto it quite quickly. And like I say, all signs point to a pretty comfortable victory here on it.
And Ian, how are you feeling heading in the game, and what do you think the key area of focus for us to win the game will be?
On paper we should win. There's been a couple of little concerning signs. Obviously, if you saw Calmack's interview after the St Mirren game, he was absolutely raging about some of the players not putting the effort in, whether that's because they were trying to preserve themselves for the cup final, or whether that we couldn't get themselves up for it because it was a non game really. There was nothing to play for Celtic. But it shows you where his standards are and how frustrated he was. And obviously, I bet Brendan Rodgers was exactly the same after the game. So, we could have some players that sort of continue that complacency into the cup final. If they think they can just turn up and turn our team over in a cup final, we'll have a problem. And remember as well, we've smashed them a few times this season. Law of averages does come into play as well in anything in life. So hopefully that doesn't happen on Saturday. But like I say, on paper, we should have no issues. It's a shame that Hatate's not in the team and he's injured. Obviously, we've lost Jota as well. So I think, I think as long as we keep the sort of the same sort of settled back four that we've had in the past few games, with Casper in goal, Greg Taylor, my goodness me, left centre half. His name escapes me. Irish boy. Scales. Sorry, man. I've had a couple of early starts. Liam Scales on the left. I think we'll be all right, And in terms of midfield, coming in for Hatate, I'd have Bernardo with Engels and Calmack up front. There's sort of talk about Jamesy maybe getting a start, but whether he's more effective as an impact player, I think that's probably the case. I think he'll start with Kuhn, Maeda, and Ida either up front. But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe Kuhn flipping to the left, Jamesy on the right, and Ryder through the middle. That might not be a bad thing as well. Certainly, if the game doesn't start that way, then maybe sort of during the game. But hopefully, we're out of sight by then anyway. So anyway, in a roundabout way of answering the question, I hope we're not going to have any problems, but it's not beyond the realms of possibilities that we could, have a shock.
For me, I look at it and go, I just want our boys to get out there, and it's boots to asses basically. Like, you know who these guys are, you know what they're about. Let's get out there, give them a kick up the arse, and then score a bunch of goals, and don't hesitate on anything. It's the last game of the season. It's not like you got to worry about there being a trophy day the next weekend and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, let's just get out there, go as hard as we can for 90 minutes, absolutely pump them because they're there to be got at. So for me, my starting lineup will be Caspar. It will be AJ and Taylor as your fullbacks, Scales and CCV centre back. Middle of the park, I'm a little unsure about the midfield because I said on Monday that whenever we have Bernardo, Engels, and Kelmac together, our midfield all looks too similar. And I'm looking at it going, do I want to start the guys who've shown that hunger and that edge and that aggression last week and reward that? And that's what I want. So I don't know who I would drop out of it, but definitely Kelmac starts, and it's either one of Engels and Bernardo, and I'll probably start McCowan. And then
He gave the ball away a few times against St Mirren, though. I like McCowan, but he wasn't. Yeah, his passing was a bit off, I thought, against St Mirren. Sorry, mate, to interrupt.
all good because Satade does the exact same thing. And in a wide open space, it's your luxury player in the 10, so it's get someone out there who's willing to have a crack. And if you give the ball away occasionally, so be it, because they're going to unlock a defence with some magic pass or bit of work rate. So I'm actually leaning towards McCowan. And then up front, I'd go Eder, I'd go Forrest on the right, and I'd be going Mader on the left. And let's just get the work rate out there and get us going. And then later on, we can always make the subs. Bring Kuhn on, bring Yang on, bring on Johnny Kenny if we need to, and go from there. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards that. It's the middle of the parks where it's going to be different for me, but I just want to get out there and absolutely get after him. Willie, you got your starting lineup, and your score prediction.
Yeah, starting lineup for me, I'm going Casper in goals, AJ at right back, CCV, Scales and Taylor. Midfield three, Engels, McGregor, Bernardo. Up front, Kuhn and Forrest in the wide areas, Maeda up front. And the reason I play Kuhn and Forrest, I just want pace in the middle, and I think Maeda will do that. But Andrew Shinney's going to be playing left back with Jack McKenzie injured, and I think Kuhn will absolutely rinse him. So that for me could be the key area of the pitch. I actually fancy my chances in a foot race against Shinney now, and I'm 120 kgs. But score prediction 5-0. Curveball prediction: keeper swap at half time after going 3-0 up.
Ian, what do you think in score prediction?
I think it'll either be like a heavy win for us, or it could be a cheeky little 1-0. If they've studied us, we stuffed them 5-1 the other day. If they really totally try and go nullify us, we found that difficult to break down. And if they get like a scrappy or cheeky goal or whatever and then sit on it, that potentially could happen. I mean, I'm not trying to tempt fate. I'm wearing this shirt here. I don't know for the older viewers. It was Coventry against Tottenham in the '87 Cup final. Tottenham were heavily favoured. They were just going to turn up, and Coventry beat them 3-2. So hopefully this isn't a jinx. But I sound like I'm being really pessimistic here. I don't expect us to win, but I think we will win. But as I say, I wouldn't be 100% shocked if they shocked us. Just going off the complacency last week, and when I was talking about McCowan before, I wasn't sort of saying that he was sort of losing the ball because he was trying to be positive. He was getting caught in possession, which was a worry. He did well. A couple of times he did well. He chased back and won the ball back, which is good, which is what we want to see. But he was caught caught in possession a couple of times, which I think needs to be right up for it. It's a cup final, so like you were saying before, I think if we just try and get a few early goals, settle the nerves, then I think away we go.
So, for me, I'm looking at it. If we play like we did against St Mirren, and we are passive, a 2-1 or a 3-2 wouldn't surprise me. If we come out there and we're just aggressive and we just get after him from the start and get that full 90-minute performance, then we could do him 6 or 7-0, and that wouldn't be a shock. Because last time when we beat him, what was it, 5 or 6? Was it 5-0 last time we played him?
5-1.
Yeah, 5-1. We had 5 different goal scorers. We could have been up around 8 or 9 goals. That's how many clear chances we had. So this is a game where if we turn up, as Smell the Glove saying, we turn up, we win comfortably. We could absolutely pump them. So it's going to be good fun. So what we'll do, boys, is we'll go to our final thought for the pod. So as usual, final thought to end the pod can be about anything football related, music. It can be about saying you have an itchy foot. It can be anything. No context is required. Nothing, right? So since we're just talking about the cup final, I'll go with my final thought first. I saw that there's an Aberdeen fan flying in from Perth in Western Australia to Edinburgh, arriving on Friday night, going to the game on Saturday, and then flying home on Sunday so that they can get to work because they had a night shift on Monday over here. So all I'm going to say is to that person, well done, but that's going to be a long way to go to be disappointed. Willie, you got a final thought?
Final thought for me, Last of Us Season 2. Oh my God, it is so good. Like,
That's next on the list. And Ian, you got a final thought?
Get the win. Hopefully it makes Brendan happy enough that he goes and signs a 5 or 10 year contract and builds a legacy, a la Jock Stein.
Happy days. Oh, one last thing I want to shout out is in the one thing that happened this morning as well. Just well done to Ange again, but Celtic managers, people who have managed Celtic and won a European trophy, how many of them exist in the history of our football club?
It's just Jock and
It's
Ange.
2 now. It's Jock and Ange as a second. So well done to Big Ange as well. I just wanted to bring that up. I just remembered that's what my thumb was actually going to be. So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hail, hail, and see you on Monday when we're celebrating the treble. Hail, hail.
hell.
He'll help.